And welcome back to the last part of News Hour. This is the last hour, and I know this is the hour you've been waiting for. Professor Makau Mutua is sitting right here with me this evening. And of course, he is Raila Odinga's campaign spokesperson, and also he is the head of Raila Odinga's think tank. Very important roles he's playing, and congratulations for those roles that I think the spokesperson was just announced today. Yesterday, so yeah. Yes. So we speak to him in a bit, but let's take you back now first to 2017, same period, same date to the day today. Let's take a look at the newspaper headline then and try and see what was happening then. Now, this is the bold newspaper, 2017 to the day today, March 2nd. It's a slow start for NASA. It's right after the coalition was formed, because the coalition was announced, I think, on the 17th of January 2017. So a slow start was a headline right there. And of course, the other story that topped the headlines then was about the Jubilee Party. I wonder where the cards went to. You remember the smart cards that they were issuing with Jubilee members. So House of Cards, how rich Jubilee aspirants are flooring poor rivals, because they could buy so many of those cards and just give them to their supporters. And the other story that made headlines then, why the bulk of graduates are not getting employed. Matiang'i says quality of courses offered in universities is a major factor. Now, that's the bold newspaper, 2017 to the day today, countdown to the election, 161 days left, if I'm not wrong, to the next election. A good point to begin our conversation tonight. Thank you so much, Professor, for coming to KTN News and News Hour tonight. Perhaps I'll take you back where we stopped. You never answered my question, and I see a lot of people asking me, why didn't you answer the question of refusing to convene a meeting between Kalonzo Musyoka and Raila Odinga? Because that's an express allegation from the Wiper leader.
Well, first of all, let me say that since 2017, I have been in touch with Mr. Musyoka on any number of occasions before the elections of 2017. But now, in the last several months, I've been in touch with him frequently. In fact, I have visited him at his home in Karen and at his command, headquarters for his election campaign. The last time I met him was actually 2 weeks ago. And I just want to confirm here for the viewers and for you that we agreed. I'm the one who went to his command center. We agreed at that point that we were going to meet with Mr. Odinga and himself in a few days. Mr. Musyoka cancelled that meeting.
He is the one who cancelled the meeting.
He's the one who cancelled the meeting.
He's saying you are the one who refused to convene it.
No, not at all. I can show you text message after text message that I've sent to him. In fact, I would not say pleading, but pushing him to have a meeting to discuss how we're going to go forward. He's been very coy. He's played very hard to get.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why is he accusing you of refusing to convene a meeting?
Well, I think, Ken, elections do strange things to men and women. That is why it's called the silly season. I think Mr. Musyoka is trying to position himself. He's trying to raise, if you will, his value to possible partners for the election. And so therefore he's playing rope-a-dope.
Okay.
Yeah, he's playing rope-a-dope.
The last time, perhaps he was expected to appear in public with ODM leader Raila Odinga was at the Azimio La Umoja event, which he was attending some other functions, or attending to other things. He didn't. So, in your knowledge, when is the last time they met with Raila Odinga?
They have met recently, or run into each other recently. I should say not met, but run into each other. I think both of them were campaigning in Mombasa about 10 days ago, and they bumped into each other and had a short conversation. But I just want to say one thing to you, Ken. To put people at ease. Politics is about negotiation, and it's about what is possible. Mr. Musyoka, I think, should calculate properly because he is a younger man. He has a longer runway for himself in this country. I just want to take you back to one vignette. Mr. Thabo Mbeki of South Africa succeeded Mr. Nelson Mandela. I don't know if you remember this, but there was one occasion where Mr. Mandela, in trying to prepare Mr. Mbeki to succeed him in the parliament, Mr. Mandela got off, his official seat and told Mr. Mbeki to come and sit there. And Mr. Mbeki actually refused to do that. He said, "Sir, that seat is too big for me." I think if I can translate this in Kenya's context, Mr. Odinga is the first among equals. Mr. Odinga is a senior man to Mr. Musyoka.
Okay.
It is Mr. Odinga, who Mr. Musyoka must give way to in the first instance, and I think Mr. Musyoka knows that. It is not possible to flip that equation at this moment. It's not possible.
Based on their age right now?
No, just based upon
experience.
Just based upon seniority, and based upon what each has done for this country. Okay. And I'm not saying this to diminish Mr. Musyoka's importance. He's a man of importance. He's a man of integrity. He has a place in this society.
We'll talk about his place, and if at all he's really a significant branch that Azimio needs right now. But you just spoke to me about Mr. Musyoka playing hard to get. You've been trying to get him. For what reason? Why have you been trying to get Mr. Musyoka?
Well, elections are about addition, not about subtraction. Before I leave here, Ken, I'm going to ask for your vote so that you can vote for Azimio. Similarly, Mr. Musyoka, as you know, has a base in Ukambani, which base is important. He also has a base elsewhere in the country. We believe that, he should come to Azimio and give us that basket of votes. Now, we would like to win the election with him.
Okay.
We don't want to win the election without him. But if we have to, we'll win the election without him.
Okay, so it's about addition. You wanted to bring him on board. He made it so clear until yesterday when he made that statement, and we're going to talk about that, about the minimums.
Yes.
He had made it clear that he will be a mad person to support Raila Odinga for a third time. With a man of Kalonzo's standing cannot make such a statement in vain. So why were you looking for him?
I was looking for him because, as I said, he's an important person. But right now, what Mr. Musyoka wants to do, he wants to negotiate with himself.
Okay.
Through the media, through press conferences. For all I know, he might be talking to people, to green men in a different planet. He should come and talk to us. We want to talk to him. I've reached out to him. He has my phone number. He knows where to get me. You cannot simply make demands on television or make demands to newspapers at press conferences when you know that you need to talk to the people you need to talk to. Okay,
let me take you back. You said you can comment on the statement that Kalonzo released, but not a statement that you are the custodian, and you're aware of that statement because according to what he said in his statement, you're the only one who was authorized if there's irreconcilable differences or fundamental breaches, you are to release that document publicly and talk about it. So why was it necessary to begin with to have this documented, to have Kalonzo, yourself, Governor Kivuta and Raila Odinga? Why was it important that you sat in April and documented this agreement?
Ken, you are not going to get me to say what I'm not going to say. What I'm going to say to you, and you're my brother, and I love you like a brother, but what I'm going to say to you is that there's a document that Mr. Musyoka released yesterday to the press. That document has several clauses. One of the clauses that you just now adverted to or referred to says that this document can only be made public, divulged, with the concurrence of 4 individuals who are named there. The second clause there says clearly that only Professor Mutua has the final authority, in fact the only authority, to make this document public. As far as I'm concerned, I have not made any document public that I may or may not have, drafted. So that document, for all practical purposes, does not exist. What exists is a hypothetical document that Mr. Musyoka has released to the press.
Are you by any chance saying that the two documents could be different? What you have and what he has, that you will not release because you don't have permission to release it as yet?
What I'm saying is that I was involved in negotiations between the two gentlemen. Okay, I'm not confirming or denying the proceeds of those negotiations. What I'm saying is that the negotiations culminated in an agreement for them to run together.
Okay.
And they ran together.
Okay.
But you see, let me just say this, Ken. What's important here is not for us to relitigate what happened in 2017. If you look at the document that Mr. Musyoka released, the top headline there, says NASA deal. Okay. There are other clauses there. One important clause says that Mr. Odinga will endorse Mr. Musyoka after he has served one term. Just two quick points. The first one is that NASA is dead, and Mr. Musyoka is one who killed NASA. The way we read legal agreements is that NASA was a political formation. That political formation is now dead. Any agreement that was a part of that political formation died with the death of NASA. That's the first thing. So even if there was a document, an agreement, that agreement is null and void because NASA is defunct, does not exist in law. Number one. Number two, it is to say that if Mr. Odinga was to endorse Mr. Musyoka after the first serving, the first term, they were never declared victors. Okay, so that particular question or fact never materialized.
Someone would say you're just shifting goalposts, Prof.
I'm not shifting any goalposts. I'm just telling you what the law says and how to interpret, any legal document. If there were conditions, precedent, or conditions that had to be fulfilled before Mr. Odinga could endorse Mr. Musyoka, and those conditions were never fulfilled, then the issue is moot.
It's impossible.
Yeah,
so
it's moot.
You don't want to talk about that document, but let me ask you, because you're part of the negotiations. I mean, NASA is dead. There's no irreparable damage that you will occasion.
Yes.
If you spoke about what you negotiated about, for example, that culminated into the two running together. Don't talk about the document, but you were privy to the negotiations. Was it one of the fundamental things that was spoken about Raila Odinga supporting Kalonzo Musyoka after the first term?
I would say that the most important thing that we discussed was that the two of them needed to run together.
Okay. And it happened
to defeat Mr. Kenyatta and Mr. Ruto.
Yes.
Okay. That was the most important thing. Obviously, in a negotiation of that nature, there is give and take. Because agreements are about give and take. And what I can say is that the two gentlemen are friends. In spite of this sort of back and forth that appears to be tension filled, they are friends. Yeah, but I think Mr. Musyoka should really come to the table without preconditions. Mr. Odinga has told him to come to the table, but I think the country, you live in this country, Ken. I mean, you can feel the groundswell around Mr. Odinga. There are two primary presidential candidates. On the one hand, Mr. Odinga, on the other hand, Mr. Ruto. There is no path forward for Mr. Musyoka as a presidential candidate between those two. There really is no path forward. And he has said himself today, I think he was on another TV station, he said that he will not go to Mr. Ruto's UDA, or Kenya Kwanza, or Kenya Kwisha, can't remember which one it is. But they, they have, he said he will not go there because he said he will not work with thieves. So
he only has one option, according to you.
He's coming to us, and our arms
he could run alone,
our arms, but that would be an act of futility, and it would be the theater of the absurd.
But does it really matter, the results?
Of course,
so long as he runs.
Of course it does. Of course it does. Because, even his solid base, his solid base are the people in Makueni, in Machakos, and Kitui. Those people do not believe that Mr. Musyoka has a path forward.
Okay.
The three governors of those counties, Mamangilu of Kitui, Professor Kibwana of Makueni, and Dr. Mutua of Machakos. Those individuals have hit the ground running for Mr. Odinga. So where is Mr. Musyoka going to get his vote
There can
from?
only be one kingpin in a region, and so many foot soldiers, you know that.
But let me just, can I correct you?
Go ahead.
Yeah, correct you a little bit, just gently. Yeah, just gently. The era of kingpins appears to be coming to an end in Kenya. The kind of grip that Mr. Musyoka had, for example, in Okambani, doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't exist anymore. You've seen the kind of back and forth in central Kenya among Kikuyu, I would say that the only region really that has a kingpin is the Kalenjin Rift Valley. There's a kingpin there. We cannot deny that. And that kingpin is Mr. Ruto.
Okay. I want to take you back to that document. You've alluded to the fact that you started that meeting. You don't want to talk about that other document, but my interest is, was this documented? Was everything that you spoke about that day documented?
I cannot confirm or deny that question.
I mean, Prof.
No, I cannot. I mean, because you are trying to push me to say something.
No, I'll not ask you about the contents of the document you have, which could vary or be the same as what Honorable Musyoka released. But was it documented?
I can say that there were many drafts.
There were many drafts. Yeah. Why would Kalonzo Musyoka insist on writing this down?
I would say that when people come to discussions as important as about state power, they want matters reduced to writing, for future reference. That is not something that is strange, to think about. You know that there was a NASA agreement, you know that.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about now, any supposed agreement between Mr. Musyoka and Mr. Odinga.
The general one.
I'm talking about the one between Mr. Mudavadi, Mr. Odinga, Mr. Musyoka, Mr. Wetangula.
And all that.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
So that's a separate document. But could it be that history pushed Kalonzo Musyoka to want this documented, and the result is what we're seeing right now? Because otherwise he will not have a claim anywhere. You can dispute, anyone can come and say that's not the document, or it's a different version of that document, but one thing that you will agree and he agrees is that there's a document here.
What I would say is that even if the document exists, Ken, and I've told you this several times now, you are coming around every time to get me to say something I'm not permitted to say by law. What I would say is this, Ken, that even if the document does exist, by the terms that were in that document that he released, that document is null and void at this moment. It's null and void.
Okay.
So whether it exists or not is not important, because it's a dead document. It's dead like a doorknob.
Would we have an opportunity if Raila Odinga told you to release the document? Do you think Kenyans will know the contents of the document that you are the person who was mandated to release?
If there's a document that exists and the conditions for its release are mature, it will be released, if there's one.
He's faulting you for breaching a clause of neutrality, so that if there was a dispute between Principal Q or H, you're allowed, or both of them, fundamental breach, you would be the one. So the fact that you endorsed Raila Odinga, and I was at Kasarani during the Azimio La Umoja.
I saw you there.
Yeah, I was right there behind you, in the sun, as you sat in the shade.
As I sat in the shade.
Yes, I was there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, let's say this. Let's say this, Ken. You know, agreements of that nature, which talk about state power, because that's what we're talking about, are serious things.
Agreement, yes.
Yeah, they're serious things. You know, and I'm saying that if it comes a time that the conditions are fulfilled for the release of such a document, if it does exist, it will be released. But
Prof, why do you insist if it does exist? Does it or does it not?
What surprised me, by the way, Ken, what surprised me was the pronouncement by Mr. Musyoka yesterday that I have no right to support a candidate. The last time I checked...
No, he said if you maintain neutrality, then you were not supposed to endorse a candidate. If you were to stand the same pedestal that you're given in 2017, you're not supposed to endorse a candidate. You're supposed to remain neutral.
No. But as I said before, Ken, I mean, I am a full-blown Kenyan. I'm a full-blown Kenyan, a son of the soil, who has constitutional rights, who can support or not support anybody. And I've chosen to support Mr. Odinga. If, by the way, I supported Mr.
Knowing very well that you are part of an agreement in 2017 that said that after 2017, regardless of whether NASA won or lost, you were supposed to support Kalonzo Musyoka.
If there was an agreement, again, Ken, there is no...
I need to move this one now.
Yeah, there's no clause in the agreement that says that...
You cannot support anyone.
Exactly. Exactly. You took
don't feel
you took the words from my mouth. I mean, if there's a document, that document did not extinguish my constitutional rights.
Okay.
It did not extinguish.
Is it possible, being a lawyer and I'm a lawyer, that Raila Odinga, the presidential candidate, the politician, would cede his right to run and document it? I'm just wondering as a lawyer. I saw some of the lawyers arguing about this. Is it possible that even if he decided to cede his right, the Constitution will allow him, just because he said, I will not run in 2022, and he documented it, that's a right that he can say, based on Article 38 of the Constitution, I'm not going to do this because I wrote it down and I said I will say it. Is it possible? Or he can come back and get defense in law and say, but how can I give away this right? Is it possible as a lawyer?
No, but you see, such agreements are gentlemen's agreements.
They have no force of law. That's what you're saying.
They have probative value.
Okay.
By which I mean that they suggest that they should be respected. Okay. But as a lawyer, you know that these agreements are not enforceable in a court of law. You know that. It's a contract. It's a gentleman's, it's a memorandum of understanding.
Then why do you even give it a definition, Prof, if it does not have the force of law?
Because, I mean, Ken, I mean, you are a lawyer. You know that lawyers do these agreements all the time. You know, it's
because like, they're supposed to stand guard when something like this happens.
No. Let me give you another example. Let us look at the handshake between Mr. Kenyatta and
Raila Odinga. Yes.
You know, is the handshake enforceable? The handshake is fundamentally a political agreement between two gentlemen. Political memoranda of understanding, bringing candidates together, are political documents. Okay, but drafted in a legal language. Okay, they are scaffolded or clothed in the language of the law.
And the people who draft them are lawyers.
And the people who draft them are lawyers.
In fact, in that team, it's only Raila Odinga who is not a lawyer.
Yes.
In the team of 4.
Yeah. In the alleged team of 4. In the alleged team of 4.
You completely don't want to talk about this document.
No.
All right, let's bring some graphics as we talk about this to see what part of this agreement, what they entail. So you're saying if anyone goes to court today, I remember the 2007 MOU, for example, right? Yes. It's not enforceable. It doesn't matter what happens.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain other conditions, precedent that must be met. Sometimes you can deposit the agreement. You can deposit the agreement with a legal entity.
For what purpose? Tell us. For what purpose?
As required by law. Sometimes you may deposit these agreements with the registrar of political parties.
Like the NASA General Agreement was deposited.
Exactly. So that's a different case. Yeah. And by the way, let me say also this, Ken. I don't know whether I have a minute to say this.
Yeah, you have time.
Yeah, let me say this. Mr. Musyoka claims that he was betrayed by Mr. Odinga. That's his claim, that because Mr. Odinga is running, okay? Because he says they had a deal, okay? Now, Mr. Musyoka also had a deal that we know about that is not a hypothetical agreement, that it is not alleged.
Which one is this?
The NASA deal.
Okay.
Okay? Now, if in fact the NASA deal existed, and it existed, right? We know that, right? So, if Mr. Musyoka went behind the backs of the other guys and entered into a side agreement with Mr. Odinga, did he not betray those other gentlemen? In law, we say that you don't come to equity.
You have to come to equity
with unclean hands.
Yes.
Yeah. So Mr. Musyoka is positioning himself as some kind of an angel. Last time I checked, I think it was Mr. Mudavadi who told him that you betrayed us.
So he cannot come and claim that he's been betrayed because he's betrayed also.
Exactly.
Shifting goalposts once again. That is the thief. Exactly. You are the thief, but now you're pointing to the next thief.
Exactly. So
that people forget you're the thief.
Exactly.
But it could also work the other way around, that you are pointing at...
It could. I'm just saying that if he wants to stand on that pedestal...
He needs to be clean.
It has to be clean, and it is not. Yeah.
Let me ask you, in your negotiations that had separate drafts,
yes,
did Raila Odinga, in your honest opinion, say that he'll not run in 2022? In the negotiations, forget about the document, did it feature?
What I can say is that there was never a discussion of anyone barring themselves from running for office in the future.
Raila Odinga says, I promised that I will support him after 2017 election if I won. Then he doesn't dispute it, but says, did I win?
He did not win, and so
it means there's something, but he didn't win.
He did not win, but also, secondly, as you pointed out correctly, not only did he not win, there is no language in the agreement that was leaked by Mr. Musyoka that where Mr. Odinga said, I will not run again.
Former Deputy Speaker in the 9th Parliament,
yes,
Farah Mohammed,
yes,
today, while making a comment,
yes,
he said, Raila Odinga, he said if there's clean election, if there's an election that man-to-man, Deputy President William Ruto will beat Raila Odinga hands down. But that's not the interest. The interest is, he said William Ruto does not betray his friends like Raila Odinga. My question is this, with what Kalonzo Musyoka is saying, right, and his team Raila Odinga, and he's ready to work with Raila Odinga, with what Musalia Mudavadi has said, with what several other leaders who have worked with Raila Odinga before say about him, do you think the current testimony, regardless of whether it exists or not, goes to lend credence to the notion that perhaps your candidate does not respect or honor agreements between them? Yeah.
First of all, let me say that it is just plain wrong and ahistorical for Mr. Maalim, whom I know and he's a friend, to even try to compare Mr. Odinga to Mr. Ruto. Mr. Ruto is a child in politics to Mr. Odinga. Mr. Ruto has not been the center of gravity of this country's politics. So his remit in politics is very limited, okay? Very limited. He has not had the opportunities to make coalitions or form political partnerships that Mr. Odinga has had. Yeah, someone who has been in political life like Mr. Odinga, and Kenya is a country where coalitions and partnerships evolve every election season. Different parties come together. Just because parties come together does not mean that someone was betrayed.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that. And by the way, I should say that what's going on between Mr. Ruto and Mr. Kenyatta, that Farah Maalim, perhaps is overlooking. Has Mr. Ruto betrayed Mr. Kenyatta? So I don't understand what Farah is talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the matrix. You now speaking as the head of the think tank,
yes,
and of course the spokesperson for Raila Odinga campaign.
Yes.
Without Kalonzo Musyoka, do you stand a chance? And where is that chance from the three governors?
Well, first of all, let me say that, I think you appreciate history, electoral history in this country. In my calculations, and in the calculations of many political analysts and thinkers, Mr. Odinga has won at least 3 elections in this country. And in all those 3 occasions, he was robbed, of the election. I remember clearly in 2007, we went to sleep at midnight or something. Mr. Odinga was ahead by, a gazillion votes. We woke up in the morning, and the votes had come from Meru or some other place, and Mr. Kibaki was announced the victor. That's clearly a stolen election. Mr. Odinga has run credibly in this country for many elections and won at least 3 of them. Okay, he has solid basis in the coast, in Nyanza. In Western, he has even beat Mr. Musalia Mudavadi, as you know very well, hands down. In Northeastern, in Kisii country, in Ukambani, he has done very well in the past. And you
don't attribute that support to the kingpins in those regions? You attribute it to his own support, organic support?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I mean, Mr. Odinga is a very substantial politician. He's the most substantial politician in this country since, I think, Mr. Kenyatta, Jomo, and Jaramogi. He's the most substantial politician since those 2 guys, who have left us. So Mr. Odinga is a phenomenon. Okay. He's an institution. And there is no way a greenhorn like Mr. Ruto would beat Mr. Odinga. I just don't see it.
Okay, so you need Kalonzo on your side, or do you think you can win without Kalonzo on your side?
We would like to win this election overwhelmingly, to remove any doubt that we won the election. I believe that we can actually garner 2/3 of the vote. Look. In 2017, Mr. Ruto ran with Mr. Kenyatta. Okay, Mr. Ruto has lost Mr. Kenyatta's charisma. He has lost those people who came to Jubilee to vote in 2017 for that team because of Mr. Kenyatta. Okay, Mr. Ruto is not, being supported by his boss. Okay, that has to be a loss, and that has to hurt him. It has to hurt him. So tell me why people, for example, in Ukambani, who do not know Mr. Ruto, why they would vote for him? Are they going to vote for slogans? One of the slogans that I think is banding around is a wheelbarrow. The wheelbarrow is a prehistoric sort of implement for slave labor. We want to look to the future. How can you bring us a wheelbarrow? Who's going to be inspired by a wheelbarrow?
It's a symbol, Prof.
A symbol of what? Do you know the history of the wheelbarrow? It's a prehistoric tool. We are talking about Konza City. We are talking about the electronic age. We are talking about going beyond, where man has not been before. And you are talking about a wheelbarrow?
Orange is a symbol.
Yeah, but that's just
progressive too.
No, but the orange is a color. But I mean, a wheelbarrow really
is a tool.
Yeah, no. There are other tools. I mean, this is a tool here, the computer.
Yes.
Yeah. Perhaps they could have used that tool there. And by the way, when they say that kazi ni kazi, they are lying, because kazi sio kazi. Do you know why kazi sio kazi? Kazi sio kazi because of several things. There must be dignity in work. Okay. If I make you work, and I underpay you, or and I employ you, or I mistreat you, or I make you work for long hours, kwani hiyo ni kazi? Hiyo sio kazi. Huo ni utumwa. So kazi sio kazi. Their slogans don't make sense at all. They just don't make sense.
I'll come back to the numbers, but this has just reminded me of a discussion that I had with ODM presidential aspirant, where I think that dream is now drowned, Jimmy Wanjigi. And in his view, is your candidate cannot transcend this generation politics. He has been relevant for 30 years, 1992. Jaramogi Oginga Odinga died 2 years later, and since then he has he has progressively, Raila Odinga has progressively stood in Kenyans' eyes as a very strong candidate. But he cannot transcend that generation, the 30 years from 1992 to 2002. He needs to leave it to another person of another generation to take it forward. So that's Jimmy Wanjigi's argument. And he's also arguing about two families that have dominated Kenyan politics for the last 63 years, Kenyatta family and the Odinga family. If an Odinga wasn't there, Kenyatta was there. If a Kenyatta wasn't there, Odinga was there. And suddenly now there's Odinga and Kenyatta in the same election. So those two arguments.
No, I never thought that Jimmy Wanjigi would be sort of an authority for anything about politics in this country. I mean, I've known Mr. Wanjigi as Mr. Moneybags, not as a politician. You know, whatever is driving him, I think it's he has a gargantuan ego. I think that's what's driving him. But I would not quote him, if I was you, as an authority on anything.
I just want that discounted because he said it to Kenyans.
Yeah, but what I would say that if in fact he has something useful to say, where is his support? Where is his base of support? You know, in politics, nothing is given. Okay? And power is never given on a silver platter. Power is taken, Ken. If there are other people in this country who are better qualified and who can beat Mr. Odinga, let them run. Who has stopped them?
But you say that, and yet ODM sort of stopped him from running. In fact, you saw what happened in Kasarani. He was blocked. Did you even care that perhaps he would have been injured, because he was very instrumental in 2017 in the NASA campaign? Did ODM or yourself, who knows him personally, reach out and ask, were you injured? What happened here?
No, look, I mean, political parties have their own internal processes of nominating candidates, selecting people, and so on for office. There are procedures. So, for example, when I went to Kasarani myself, I had to be pre-cleared.
To go to Kasarani?
To go to Kasarani. Just like you presented your press credentials and you are able to go in there. I mean, Mr. Wanjigi, I understand that he never applied to ODM to seek their presidency. He never filled the paperwork. He could have picked up the paperwork and filled the paperwork.
Prof, the whole place was full of individual party supporters, hundreds of them, who did not need to fill. They were just invited as party supporters. I mean, he could have come in as a party supporter. Why was he blocked at the gate, for example?
No, but I obviously I am not. I don't know the particulars of his case. But let me just say this here: if he had the right credentials, I'm sure he would have been allowed in. But he came there like a trooper to storm the place. You know, if it's your party and you support it, why are you storming the building? Why? I mean, he just wanted drama. He's a drama queen, and I don't take him seriously.
Okay.
Quite frankly.
Let's talk about numbers.
Yes.
You spoke about William Ruto not being supported by his boss.
Yes.
And that's a definite dent, because he doesn't have that backing right now.
Yes.
That dent, how significant, and related to the dent that perhaps Musalia Mudavadi and Moses Wetangula would have occasioned your candidate?
Yeah. So I think, you know, just to go back to 2013 and 2017, when those two gentlemen supposedly won the election, they ran together and they were able to bring together their two communities, the Kalenjin and the Kikuyu, as a solid base. No one denies that that is a big basket of votes. Okay? Although I personally believe that those elections were stolen. But, you know, just to say that Mr. Ruto now does not have that partnership. Yeah, you are also forgetting that the ICC was a very emotive issue. And I think to some extent the ICC issue motivated many in the Kalenjin community and many in the Kikuyu community
to vote for them.
To vote for them. That issue is no longer of the moment. It is not there. I think Mr. Ruto is trying to gin up support without that issue. It's very tough going for him. It's very tough going for him. He will be in the opposition come August 9th.
He lost it, but you also lost, your candidate also lost Musalia Mudavadi and Moses Wetangula. Speak to us about that.
Yeah, so again, you know, I think elections are about additions, not subtractions.
Not subtractions,
yeah.
Yes, you said that.
So personally, I was not thrilled that Mr. Mudavadi, you know, after lacerating, lambasting Mr. Ruto, calling him a thief, calling him a pilferer of public goods, he now runs to him like a child, okay? This is the reason why Mr. Mudavadi has no cachet, has no purchase in Western Kenya. Every time Mr. Mudavadi has run against Mr. Odinga in Western Kenya, Mr. Odinga has beaten him.
It's only once that he's run against him.
Yeah, no, but it's only once.
Yeah.
But that once was significant.
483,000 votes.
Yeah, 483. I mean, I could get that, Ken.
483,000?
I could get 483 myself if I
Your
ran.
nemesis Miguna last week said that I am more famous than one of the politicians. I'll get more votes. Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
So you think it's not a significant dent to your campaign?
No, he is significant in the sense that I think he has some following in Western Kenya, but I think his significance is not so big as to make us lose an election.
Okay.
Clearly, we would have preferred that he stays with us.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he's welcome back. I mean, they're not solidified.
No, of course he's welcome back.
And to play what part?
What do you mean to play what part? He comes as a voter, and he comes as a person supporting us.
Okay.
You know, and by the way, he might, because you've seen recently the kind of spat between Mr. Gachagua and Mr. Mudavadi and Senator Malala. You've seen that spat.
Yes.
Yeah, because Mr. Mudavadi obviously may have been under some illusion that he might be the running mate. And Mr. Gachagua disabused him of that illusion, told him that, no, you will not be that, and when you came in, you knew that, and you knew that the running mate will come from Mount Kenya. Mr. Gachagua is not a person who doesn't have information. He has information.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't see them sticking together?
Anything is possible, Ken.
But to play what part again?
I think if they came, if Mr. Mudavadi, forget about Mr. Wetangula, because I think he is a pure opportunist. But if Mr. Mudavadi does not get, I think, what he thought he should have gotten from
is now clear
from Mr. Ruto.
Yeah, which is now clear.
Yeah, he might vote out. He might just get out of that alliance. You know, obviously we will welcome him back. But if he was to come back, I think he would come back as a
general member of the party.
No, he will bring Amani into Azimio. Just like other people are bringing their parties to Azimio.
Okay.
And they would be welcome because Azimio is a big tent. Yeah.
So his options right now, for, as a political analyst, someone who's practiced politics, what are the options of Musalia Mudavadi right now? Now that it's very clear from Gachagua that he knew the running mate must come from. I mean, if they sign a pact, same as what was signed between your candidate and the rest.
Yes.
I mean, if once they decide that the candidate for Kenya Kwanza is William Ruto, it's going to happen. UDA is going to give it to him. I mean, he cannot go back on this.
That's a foregone conclusion.
Yes. So once that happens, obviously the next pact that they need to make is who's the running mate.
Yes.
So after that pact, and he's not going to be the running mate.
Yes.
He still has.
Yeah. I think Mr. Mudavadi is caught between a rock and a hard place, or between the devil and the deep blue sea. He often miscalculates. There was no reason for him, after savaging Mr. Ruto for the last 5 years, you know, as a thief, as a reliable person, as a person who is stealing from the public, he then runs to him.
Including less than a fortnight before he joined him. When he did the bottom up.
Exactly.
With the water.
Exactly. So that was, to me, I mean, some people allege that he was given money. I don't know whether it was money that was given to him.
We cannot ascertain that.
Yeah, we cannot ascertain that, and I'm not saying that he was. I'm just saying that these were some allegations I saw. But it certainly befuddles the human mind, you know, the discerning mind like mine, as to why someone would be so dismissive of another person, and then the next day, you know, he's singing their praises.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have dismissed Deputy President William Ruto.
Yes.
Ruto's trip in the US.
Yes.
Yeah, it's of no consequence, it's no effect.
Well, first of all, let me just say that, you know, the best time for you to visit the United States, if you really are campaigning for the presidency, is not the winter. It's very cold, you know, so it's uncomfortable for these guys who live in the tropics to be running around there, you know, in the winter. That's number one. Number two, once they knew that the Ukraine issue was at the moment, I think they should have postponed the trip simply because people's attention is not focused there. You know, but what was even more surprising to me is that they caricatured themselves They caricatured themselves. Here's an African potentate who takes a 40-person, entourage. I mean, that is like a caricature of an African leader in a poor country, goes to the West with 40 people on a junket at the cost of $1 million. And then while he is there, he tells the Americans that his government, essentially accusing Mr. Kenyatta, his government is going to rig the election. I mean, it's just remarkable. There is nothing that this guy would not say or do. But I saw him the other day. He was in Nebraska visiting the governor of Nebraska. Mm-hmm. That is not the first place that I would go if I was him. I would concentrate, in Washington, in New York, and so on and so forth, where the power bases are, and try to make headway there. I think what he's trying to do clearly is to burnish his international credentials.
Okay.
Because when you put the two side by side, Mr. Odinga and Mr. Ruto has no international credentials. You saw, I'm sure you saw recently, footage of Mr. Odinga speaking at a kind of a workshop about infrastructure, where he spoke so eloquently.
In India, I think.
In India. He spoke so eloquently, without notes, for 10 minutes about infrastructure. I think people were left completely amazed by his knowledge of infrastructure. This is who Mr. Odinga is.
Okay.
I think Mr. Ruto is just trying to catch up.
Tell me, you've told me Raila Odinga is going to win this election.
Yes.
Tell me how William Ruto is not going to win this election.
So I've watched Mr. Ruto closely over the last 4 or 5 years. He invested heavily in the Mount Kenya region, more specifically in Kikuyu country, heavily. I mean, he dishes money out like water, millions and millions. I think if you were to kind of count the monies that he has given, I mean, it runs into hundreds of millions, right? Mm-hmm. We don't know where he gets the money from. So that's one question we should be asking at some point. And the churches are complicit in that unholy sort of exchange of money and goods. One thing that Mr. Ruto, I think, may not have realized is that he has overinvested in the Mount Kenya region. Mm-hmm. And why am I saying he has overinvested? I'm saying that because I don't think the voter turnout is going to be very high.
In Mount Kenya region for the first time? It
will not be very high. They have no candidate at the top of the ticket. Mm. I'll be surprised if that voter turnout even hits 60%.
Okay.
And don't forget that we are courting Mount Kenya vigorously. We are campaigning there heavily as well. Okay. We're not taking anything for granted. So we're going to get some votes there. Okay. I think that will neutralize him. There is no path to victory for Mr. Ruto if he does not get 90% of the vote in Mount Kenya, 90% of the vote in Mount Kenya, with a voter turnout that exceeds 70%.
There's no path to power.
There's no path to power, and those numbers are not there.
How has the endorsement, because this happened over the weekend, how does it energize Raila's campaign and forays in Mount Kenya region? Because we know for a fact that the president has never taken Raila to Central region to campaign.
Yes.
Yes. So how does it have any effect? People have dismissed President Uhuru Kenyatta's lame duck because he's leaving. So he has no effect. And secondly, the fact that we have a president in Mount Kenya region. You have seen several caucuses from Mount Kenya region complaining about what has not been done for them. And yet they had a president. So the talk is a deputy president from that region. If a president couldn't do what they wanted, can a deputy president do it? And the fact that they don't run, they're not running, and you've spoken about voter turnout. So has it ignited, has it increased, put in some energy? And is it likely that you'll see more voters coming out from Mount Kenya for Raila Odinga because of that endorsement? Yeah,
so Ken, Mr. Odinga has never gotten more than, I think 10% of the votes in Mount Kenya in the past. We know that, right? But he has won the elections 3 times without Mount Kenya. You know, remember that. He has won before. He has been denied the victory, but he has won before without that vote. Okay? This time around, we expect that we are going to exceed by far the vote total that Mr. Odinga has gotten in the past in the Mount Kenya region. Yeah, we might get 40%, we might get 30%, we might even get 50%. Okay? What I would say to you is this, and I've seen this happen in the last several months. I've seen Mr. Ruto and his lieutenants heaping abuse on Mr. Kenyatta. Okay, I've seen that. I just want to say that, people might not be very happy with Mr. Kenyatta, but Mr. Kenyatta still remains the political leader of the region.
Mount Kenya region.
Yeah, he remains that. And I don't know how much you know about Kikuyu culture, but in that culture, you don't abuse heroes or warriors. You don't abuse people of means, and you don't abuse mothers.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that the campaign by Mr. Ruto has crossed all those lines, and I think they're going to pay for that. Okay. Quite frankly. So what I'm trying to say to you is that, and let me just add this one point, that Mr. Kenyatta is a formidable campaigner. I think you and I can agree on that. I don't know how old you were in 2002 when he first ran. He was very young, but he ran a very effective campaign. He was beaten, hands down, by Mr. Kibaki because of the NAC wave. But I watched him. He's a beast on the campaign trail. I watched him in 2013. I watched him in 2017. I've said on other shows, I've had my differences with his politics. Okay, but I've said before that he's a very likable guy.
Okay.
Yeah, he's relatable, as they say.
All right.
I think that if he hits the campaign trail, he'll get Mr. Odinga some votes.
Okay, I want to play the video of the week so that you comment about it.
Yes.
But even as we look for the video of the week, because we're playing it next,
yes.
How do you think the election is going to turn up in terms of the voters from Nyanza? Is this time you're going to see more people from Nyanza voting than never voted before?
Yeah, I think the people of Nyanza have felt, and for good reason, marginalized in this country. Okay, they have felt that way. I mean, you know the history. Assassinated leaders. I mean, Tom Mboya. Robert Ouko. Jaramogi in detention. I mean, they are senior leaders have either been killed. Crispin Mbai. So there's a lot of anger there.
Okay.
Okay, I think that, and they think that they have also their elections have been stolen. When they have won. So there's anger there.
Okay.
But I think, let me just say this before you cut to the next segment, that they believe that this time around, it's their time.
Okay.
And I agree with them, it's their time. And so I expect a very high voter turnout in Nyanza.
Let's play the video of the week, then you comment about it as we leave. This is our video of the week.
Mambo ya siasa ni kama upepo. Inaweza panda, inaweza shuka, inaweza simama. Na mumeona tayari vile hiyo maneno imeanza kuzunguka. Ama mjaona? Simuona? Ilianza 2014 ama ilikuwa sijui wapi, handshake kakuja. Watu wengine karibu wapandishe pressure. Sasa tumeenda kwa hii siasa, tumeenda. Unaona sasa Mudavadi, Wetangula wako kwa bottom up wanatangatanga. Lakini hapo nyuma Musalia na Mudavadi Wetangula walikuwa kona gani? Wewe endelea kuhangaika hapa Eldoret. Watu watakutana nani waju hapo kwa roundabout. Ukipiga kelele. I'm telling you, I'm not the most experienced politician. Lakini kwa hii muda kidogo mmenipatia nafasi, nimeona mambo mengi sana kwa siasa. Na kuna mambo mnaona hapa kwa TV mbele, lakini ile mambo iko nyuma ya TV ni mingi kuliko iko mbele kwa TV. Hata mkiona watu wakigombana huko, Jioni unasikia mtu anapiga simu, si ukuje dina. Na atakuja, na mjana ile mambo ilikuwa inaendelea kwa TV mbele ni tofauti. Usiku unasikia mtu anaambia my wife ametengeneza dina. Na wewe unashikwa na pressure hapa. Achana na hiyo maneno.
All right, your parting shot, even as you comment on that video, I think he epitomizes, you know, the face of normal politics, because he's on that beat a lot, the governor.
Yeah, he's basically saying that our politics are opportunistic, that tomorrow we could be together and tomorrow and the next day you're with someone else, you know, and also he's saying that we should not take it too seriously and allow our blood pressures to shoot through the roof. So I think, you know, there's some truth in that.
What Governor Mandago say?
Yes.
All right, your parting shot as I let you go, Prof.
Yeah, it is just to say simply that, you know, we face a critical election on August the 9th. What is very important for us is our country remains together after that election. We do not want to go back to the place we were in 2008. So I'm suing my people. By suing, I mean pleading with them to really treat each other with decorum, with respect, and with dignity as we go to the elections, so that we can have a peaceful election. But I'm also telling them that it's a transformational election. It's an election for change. It's not an election where we want to go backwards, we want to go forwards. And the only person who can take us forward is Kenya's Mandela, Mr. Odinga.
All right. A good place to end the show on that positive note, Prof, tonight.
Thank you so much, Ken.
Thank you for coming and clarifying. I'm hoping when we get an opportunity from the principals to make that document public, you're going to come back on the show.
If the document was ever there.
Is it there?
Who knows? Who knows? I cannot deny or confirm.
Professor Makau Mutua, he is, I'm still trying to get a grasp of this. He is the Raila Odinga campaign spokesperson, and also he's the head of Raila Odinga think tank. All the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And as I always say, we should talk more, because the moment we stop speaking is the day we begin to fight. So as Kenyans, we need to speak more. My name is Ken Mijungu. Thank you for watching News Hour tonight. Another good show next week, same place, same time. But as I sign off to the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, and the international media outlet CNN is reporting that over 2,000 Ukrainians have been killed in the war that has lasted now 6 days. It began last